This is the last section of Chapter 8, 8.8, credit cards, which most students end up having credit cards, unfortunately. Using a credit card is an example of an open-end installment loan, commonly called revolving credit. Open-end loans differ from fixed installment loans such as car loans and mortgages in that there's no schedule for paying a fixed amount each period, right? And your amount that you spend each month differs, right, with the amount you charge to your credit card. Credit card loans require users to make only a minimum monthly payment that depends on the unpaid balance and the interest rate. Of course, we all know that you should never just pay the minimum monthly payment. It will take forever for you to pay off your credit card bill. Most credit card companies are billed every month. A typical billing period is May 1 through May 31st, but it can also run from, say, May 5th through June 4th. Customers receive a statement called an itemized billing that includes the unpaid balance on the first day of the billing period, the total balance owed on the last day of the billing period, a list of purchases and cash advances made during the billing period, any finance charges or other fees incurred, the date of the last day of the billing period, the payment due date, and the minimum payment required. Customers who make a purchase during the billing period and pay the entire amount of the purchase by the payment due date are not charged interest. So, if you can pay off your credit card bill every month and you have a credit card that, say, you can earn miles towards airline tickets or points towards purchases, credit cards can be a great thing. But if you are not able to pay them off every month and pay the minimum monthly payment, the amount that you pay towards interest is extremely high. Interest is calculated using I equals PRT, where R is the monthly rate and T is 1 month. Usually, credit cards give you a monthly interest rate instead of the annual interest rate. So you just really have to watch that. If the rate is already monthly, then you're going to use 1 month instead of 1/12. If it gives you the yearly rate, then you would use 1/12 for the time. So it says alternately use T equals 1/12 and use the yearly interest rate like we did in the last section when we did the loan tables. The principal P is the average daily balance, right, and during the month, which we will have to calculate. The average daily balance is the sum of the unpaid balance for each day in the billing period. Divided by the number of days in the billing period. How to find the average daily balance. Make a table that shows the beginning date of the billing period, each transaction date, and the unpaid balance. Add a column to show the number of days of each unpaid balance. Add the final column that adds up all the unpaid balances and multiply by the number of days the balance is outstanding. Find the sum of the products and then compute the average daily balance by dividing that sum by the number of days in the billing period. You can refer back to this. I don't want to read through it because you're best to see by example, but you can look back after we go through the example. Example, balance due on a credit card. The issue of a particular Visa card calculates interest using the average daily balance. The monthly, you have to be careful, the monthly interest rate is 1.3% of the average daily balance. So we have to figure out what the average daily balance is. The following transactions occurred during the May 1 through May 8th billing period. Part A, find the average daily balance for the billing period, round to the nearest cent. So it gives us our previous balance is $13.50, right? And then on May 8th, we pay $250. We can't afford the whole $13.50, so we pay $250. And then we make some more charges, and it's due July 9th. So we will actually do Part A on the next slide. So we begin by finding the average daily balance for the period. First, make a table that shows the beginning date of the billing period, each transaction date, and the unpaid balance for each date. I should say for each date. Okay, so we have on May 1 is the billing date, and we have a previous balance, an unpaid balance of $13.50. On May 8th, we make a payment of $250. So we're going to subtract $250 from our $13.50. $13.50 minus $250. So now our unpaid balance is $1,100. But on May 10th, we charge airline tickets at $375. So we're going to add that on. So that should give us $1475 for the unpaid balance. On May 20th, we purchase books. So we add that on to our $1475, and now our unpaid balance is $1532.50. And then we have a restaurant charge at $65.30. $2640.30. No, that can't be right. You can't go from 1500. $1532.50 plus $65.30. That should be $1597.80. We now extend our table by adding two columns. One column, so this is the one that we just filled out, our unpaid balance. One column shows the number of days at each unpaid balance, and so let's go ahead and figure out that. So from May 1st to May 8th, that's 7 days. Okay, so we actually have 7 days here. 7 days where our unpaid balance is $13.50. All right, from May 8th to May 10th, that's 2 days at the unpaid balance of $1,100. And here, that's 10 days. That's 8 days. And from the 28th through the 31st, that's actually 4 days because you count the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. So that's 4 days, and it should total 31 days. All right, if you add all these up, it will total 31 days. So what we want to do is, again, remember we're calculating the average unpaid balance. So we're going to, in this column, do the unpaid balance times the number of days, 1350 times 7. I'm just going to write them out first. 1100 times 2, 1475 times 10, 1532.50 times 8, and 1597.80 times 4 days. All right, just doing the unpaid balance times the number of days of that unpaid balance. 1350 times 7, 94.50. That's 2200. That's 14,750. That is 12,260. 63,9,120. Okay. So again, we're going to figure out the total in this column. All right, so we want to add these guys up. If you add those up, 9450, 2200, 14750, 12260, 1 plus 639, 120. The total should be 45,051.20. Right? But we're going to get the average daily balance. So we're going to take that sum and we're going to divide by the number of days. Right? And you can kind of look at it and see that the average balance is going to be somewhere around 1,400. Right? The smallest is 1,100 and the biggest is 1,587. So we need to figure out the average daily balance. So we're going to write down that number. And on the next slide, right, we're going to divide that by the number of days, which is 31 days. Right? Find the average daily balance, round to the nearest cent. So we found 45,051.20. Divide by the 31 days. You punch that into a calculator, you'll get the average daily balance of $1,453.26, which again seems reasonable. Right? Look through your daily balances and that seems reasonable. Then you find the interest to be paid. We're going to use the average daily balance to find the interest paid. And again, if you notice, it depends on if you made the big purchase at the beginning of the month, that type of thing. So remember that I equals PRT, but this rate is a monthly rate. Is monthly rate, not our annual rate. So use T equals 1 month. Okay. So 1453, we take our average daily balance, which is our sort of our principal in a sense. 0.013 is our monthly interest rate for 1 month. So the interest this month, if you punch that into a calculator, 1453.26 times 0.013, that should give you $18.89. So that's the amount that interest that's owed for that month. So that ended on the last day in May. Find the balance due on June 1st. So we had an unpaid balance. The unpaid balance was $1,597.80 at the end of May. Right, this was May 28th. That was the unpaid balance. Plus we owe the interest, which was $1,889 plus 1597.8. So the next month you will start with that's the unpaid balance, and then hopefully at the beginning of that month you will pay most of that. This credit card requires a $10 minimum monthly payment if the balance due at the end of the period is less than $360. Otherwise, the minimum payment is 1/36 of the balance due, rounded up to the nearest whole dollar. What is a minimum payment due by June 9th? So you only have to a $10 minimum payment if what's owed is less than $360. So since this is more than $360, you have to use the 1/36 of the balance due. So 1616.69 times 1 divided by 36. So the minimum monthly payment will be it's $44.91, and it said round up to the nearest dollar. So that will be $45. Right? If you owe less than $360, your minimum payment will just be $10 bucks. But if you owe more than $360, which we do, you have to figure out 1/36 of that amount, and that just means 1 divided by 36 times 1669. The last bit, we just can talk about the advantages and disadvantages of credit cards. Get to use a product before actually paying for it. Advantages. No interest charges by paying the balance due at the end of each billing period. I know one benefit for me is I pay my credit card bill off every month, but again, we get points and we can buy things with our points. Responsible use is an effective way to build a good credit score. On page 562 of the book, you can open the online text. There's a discussion of credit scores. No need to carry around large amounts of cash, right? But credit scores are very important. You don't want to ruin your credit early on. It's more convenient to use than checks. Offer consumer protections. If there's a disputed or fraudulent charge on your credit card statement, let the card issuer know and the amount is generally removed. Provide a source of temporary emergency funds, right? If you don't have a lot of money in your checking account, but you have an emergency. Extend shopping opportunities of purchase over the phone or internet. Simple tasks like renting a car or booking a hotel room can be difficult or impossible without a credit card. Monthly statements can help keep track of spending. Some card issuers provide an annual statement that aids in tax preparation. May provide amenities such as free miles towards air travel. That's what I mentioned. Useful as identification when multiple pieces of identification are needed. Credit card woes. High interest rates on unpaid balance. In 2009, interest rates were as high as 30%. Obviously, that's per year. So you'd have to divide that by 12 to get the monthly interest rate. No cap on interest rates. In 2009, the U.S. Senate defeated an amendment that would have imposed a 15% cap on credit card interest rates. The Credit Card Act, passed by Congress in 2009, does restrict when issuers can raise rates on existing unpaid balances, right? You don't want all of a sudden you're in the middle of the month and rates are going up. Your initial credit card interest rate is unlikely to go down, but can sure go up. No cap on fees. Consumer Reports cited a credit card with an enticing 9.9% annual interest rate, but the fine print revealed a $25 account setup fee, a $95 program fee, a $48 annual fee, and a $7 monthly servicing fee. So those are things that you have to watch out for, right? Always read the fine print. Nearly 40% of the $40 billion in profits that the U.S. credit card issuers earned in 2008 came from fees. Furthermore, issuers can hike fees at any time for any reason. Read the fine print of a credit card agreement before you sign up. And with credit cards, it's easy to overspend. Purchases with credit cards can create the illusion that you are not actually spending money. Can serve as a tool for financial trouble. Using a credit card to buy more than you can afford and failing to pay the bill in full each month can result in serious debt. Fees and interest charges are added to the balance, which continues to grow even if there are no new purchases. All right, you really want to pay off that credit card each month if you can. The minimum payment trap. Credit card debt is made worse by paying only the required minimum, a mistake made by 11% of credit card debtors. Pay the minimum and most of it goes towards the interest charges. And last thing, debit cards. Debit cards offer the convenience of making purchases with a piece of plastic without the temptation or ability to run up a credit card debt. You can't spend money you don't have because the card won't work if the money isn't in your checking or savings account. Debit cards have drawbacks. They may not offer the protection a credit card does for disputed purchases. It's easy to rack up overdraft charges if your bank enrolls you in an overdraft protection program. That means your card won't be turned down if you do not have sufficient funds in your account to cover your purchase. You are spared the embarrassment of having your card rejected, but it will cost you fees of approximately $27 per overdraft. Debit card purchases should be treated like those for which you would use a check. Record all your transactions and their amounts in your checkbook, including any cash received from the ATM. Always keep track of how much money is available in your account. Your balance can be checked at an ATM or online. As a college student, it is unlikely that you have a credit history. Once you apply for your first credit card, your personal credit report will begin. A credit report contains the following information: your name, social security number, current address and previous address, record of credit accounts. This includes details about all open or closed credit accounts, such as when each account was open, the last payment, and the balance history. So, many banks will not give you a loan if you have a bad credit history. So it's really important to pay on time, right? If you get bills, contact them if you're going to miss a payment so that your credit score does not go down, so that in the future that you can buy a car with a decent interest rate or buy a house with a decent interest rate. That is the end.